Hi, this is Mrs. Sant. We're going to check our Pythagorean theorem today. We learned last time when you have a right triangle and you're solving for the hypotenuse, there's a theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So we learned that when you have two legs of a right triangle, you would call these two legs A and B, and the hypotenuse is always C. The hypotenuse is always the longest leg on a right triangle. Sometimes it's hard to tell. So you know that the hypotenuse is always directly across from the right angle. The hypotenuse is always C. Let's try an example. Let's say that we're given a triangle and its legs are 3 and 4, and we're solving for C. So we would say 3 squared plus 4 squared. It doesn't really matter which comes first. So it doesn't really matter which is A and B, as long as we know the hypotenuse, or C, is always on the other side of the equal sign of this equation. This is easy to solve because it's numbers that we're familiar with. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4, or 4 squared, is 16, equals C squared. 9 plus 16 is 25. So what is C? Let's take the square root of both sides to get C by itself. 25 is what number times itself? Well, that would be 5. 5 times 5 is 25. So C equals 5. Let's move on in this example. We're going to give you a new assignment. Let's say we're given another right triangle. We're given one leg is 8 and the hypotenuse is 10. But we don't know the other leg. We can call this leg A. We still will solve it the same way. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Let's solve this one. Well, let's put it into the same exact formula. A squared plus b squared would be 8 squared equals the hypotenuse squared. This isn't much tougher to solve. It's just one more step. So I'm going to rewrite this. A squared plus 8 times 8 is 64. 10 times 10 is 100. How do I get a squared by itself? If we remember our algebra, we know that we need to take the opposite of positive 64 in order to get a squared by itself. In other words, we can subtract 64. If we subtract 64 from one side of the equal sign, we have to subtract 64 from the other side of the equal sign to keep our equation balanced so that it will be correct. 64 take away 64 is 0. That cancels. I now have a squared equals 100 take away 64. When I plug that in my calculator, I get 36. So how do I get the answer for A? Let's take the square root of both sides, just like we did before. A equals, what is the square root of 36? One number times itself is 36, and that number would be 6. We'll give you a few problems to try on your own this time. Good luck.